To suggest Afghanistan has divided the nation is to oversimplify the case. Whatever hearts and minds the president won over tonight, which ones he lost, there are those on both sides who otherwise are near perfect political matches. The rift is perhaps so profound that it merits something unusual here, a debate of sorts involving two people who would otherwise not have much to debate about. Participating with us tonight, Cenk, the host of the progressive talk show The Young Turks. Mr. Uyger does not support Mr. Obama's strategy in Afghanistan. And Karen Finney, former communications director of the DNC, current Democratic strategist. Ms. Finney supports the president's plan. Good evening to you both. Thanks for trying this.
Thank you.
It's cable. There are two guests. Unlike every other cable show you've ever been on, I'd like you to discourage you from yelling at each other. I'll ask one of you the question and then offer the other a chance to rebut or reply and then reverse the procedure. Cenk, let me start with you. What did the president say tonight that did not change your mind?
Well, he laid out three prongs, military strategy, civilian strategy, and then, of course, our approach to Pakistan. On the first two, I was completely unconvinced. What are we going to do militarily with 30,000 troops that we couldn't already do? In fact, we'd probably need about 300,000 troops, or maybe even more, if we really needed to tamp down popular insurgency. He says there is no popular insurgency. I was unconvinced by that. He says on prong number two, on the civilian strategy, we're going to go after the guys who are corrupt. I'm sorry, I would love to believe that, but I don't, because the guy who's most corrupt is the president of Afghanistan, and we just let him become president again, knowing full well that his brother is one of the biggest drug lords in the world at this point. So I'm not convinced on the first two prongs. The third prong is really interesting, Pakistan, but he didn't really lay out a case of what to do about Pakistan and what our troops in Afghanistan would be doing about the fight against Al-Qaeda in Pakistan.
Karen Finney, Cenk's points about military strategy, civilian corruption, and Pakistan. Your replies?
Yeah. Well, obviously I disagree, and I think the president made a pretty strong case for why these are the three sort of pillars of the strategy and what it is we hope to accomplish. And look, one of the things I was most encouraged by is I thought he gave a pretty frank, open, honest assessment on each of those three pillars, which is something we've not had in Afghanistan. I think that's very important going forward. So I support the president. I would like to hear more details. I do think we have to go in with the belief that, again, the generals have told us they need more troops. Then we got to, give them the resources they've asked for. I like the idea that it's being coupled with a need for a civilian surge, as the president talked about, because I think too often we've only heard about the military side of things. So I think that's important. And I'm very pleased about the Pakistan piece, because again, I think we have to remember we're not at war with Afghanistan. We're at war with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, and we know they are not just in Afghanistan, they're in Pakistan, and as the president touched on, other parts of the world. So there's a much broader global context that we have to be thinking about.
My second question is starting with you, Karen. Do you believe that the president tonight approached this speech in an attitude different from previous presidents' speeches on the subject of war, that this was less a rallying cry than a sober comments made to adults, for want of a better term?
Yeah, I really did, and I was very pleased to hear that. I was very pleased, again, that it was a frank, honest assessment. I thought that it was very positive that he also, on the one hand, he said to the troops, look, you deserve to hear directly from me the mission, but also reminded all of us that there is, a real coupling of our military needs as well as our domestic agenda. And I thought it was great. No sloganeering and, none of that, usual BS, if you will, that we've had in the last few years. I think it was a very straightforward speech.
Cenk, was it indeed a straightforward speech, and did we benefit from the fact that there was, and I'll echo the term, no BSing in this one?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I was a little concerned about when he said the Homeland Security is at stake here. I'm not sure with the few Al-Qaeda fighters there are left in Afghanistan, if that's the case. He seemed very concerned about partisanship. I've not seen him this aggressive in fighting back against partisanship, and I view that as to be positive. He was straight in some ways, but in other ways I thought, are you really letting us know how we're going to fight Al-Qaeda in Pakistan? Because he didn't really address that, and I wish he'd done a little bit more of that.
To that point specifically, that's my third question. And Cenk, I'll start again with you. The president clearly did not convince you that more troops in Afghanistan will address the al-Qaeda presence on the Pakistan border, even though he used that terminology that the cancer has also taken root in the border region of Pakistan. What was missing? What is the strategy? How are these two countries connected in our role in both of them?
You know, Keith, you know that I was in favor of Obama's strategy on this until about a month or so ago. And so I'm predisposed to believing that we're doing a decent job of squeezing al-Qaeda between Afghanistan, where we are, and with the Pakistani army moving up north as they are. So I want to be convinced of that. I don't believe he's got the Afghanistan side figured out, because I don't think Karzai's a credible leader there, and I don't think we're going to turn around Afghanistan in 18 months and all of a sudden they're going to be a flourishing democracy. Is it possible that we do succeed in Pakistan in killing the al-Qaeda leadership? Yes, but when do we call it a victory? Is it just if we get bin Laden, just if we get Zawahiri, or how many al-Qaeda guys in Pakistan do we have to kill before we say mission accomplished?
Karen Finney, without perhaps embracing that controversial phrase too closely, when do we say that the job has been done in Pakistan?
Well, look, I think what the president was trying to lay out was, here's an 18-month plan of what we're going to do, and sort of stripping away from some of the rhetoric that we've heard over the last 8 years about mission accomplished and when we're going to win. I mean, look, we've got a strategy. We know we need to go after al-Qaeda. We know we've got to go after the Taliban. Again, I don't think it's about sort of setting these arbitrary deadlines that say, okay, this is when we know we'll have won. There's one other point, though, I really think is important to make here, Keith. I was the DNC communications director when we took back the House and Senate in 2006. Democrats largely campaigned on a critique against the way Bush was going against doing things in Iraq by saying we needed to refocus on Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. President Obama himself has been very clear all along throughout the campaign that this was his strategy. So, again, this should not come as a surprise that he's now keeping his word.
Cenk, I'm going to have to, I know you're chomping at the bit to answer that, but time has escaped us. Cenk Uyger, the host of the Young Turks show, and Karen Finney, Democratic strategist. Great thanks for participating in our experiment tonight. I think it went pretty well, and thank you for making that happen.
Thanks.
Thanks, Keith.